Greetings, Diocese of Olympia. Today I want to talk about a subject that many of us would just as soon avoid: death and dying. When I was a freshman in college, looking for what I perceived to be the easiest of class projects, I made the misguided decision to sign up for hospice training. It seemed the least daunting of my choices. I'd like to think I'm better now, but like a lot of my decisions back then, was I ever wrong? But I've never regretted that move at all. In fact, it was one of the most transformative decisions I have ever made, and it changed my life. I know it seems odd to say that the focus on death changed my life, but it's true. And I think if pushed to the discussion, you will find this true in more and more stories you hear from many people. Most of all of us know how death and loss have brought us to a deeper appreciation and value of life itself. Which brings me to the very purpose of this video, the hope for more such discussions, and to introduce you to a new resource for which I am deeply grateful and for which this diocese had a major role in seeing developed. A resource that will help you initiate and lead these important discussions. Heartwork, a group headed by Trudy James, who many of you know, has taken the lead in producing this film. It is entitled Speaking of Dying, Living Deeply, Dying Well. I mention this as a subject many of us wish to avoid. That avoidance comes from fear, a fear of the unknown. As the website description of this film says, because of this fear, far too many of us die in ways we would not wish to, often in ICUs, tethered to feeding tubes, in intolerable pain, or unconscious and unable to say a meaningful goodbye to our life and those we care about. Speaking of dying, the film is meant to change this pattern by shining a bright light on death. In so doing, it offers us a pathway to a better ending. The film is one piece of a growing cultural awareness that all of us need to pay attention to our choices and wishes before there is a crisis. The 30-minute documentary captures the voices and stories of people becoming comfortable speaking of dying. Many of those you will meet in the film have overcome their fears and found comfort through their participation in the pioneering, community-based workshops of Chaplain Trudy James and her Heartwork partners.
No matter how old you are, we need to be prepared. Anything can happen. We're not invincible.
Meet Audrey and Bill, an aging couple with multiple health issues who are facing their own mortality. Through speaking openly, Audrey and Bill are beginning to understand their own wishes and the importance of communication with their children before a crisis occurs. In the film, Speaking of Dying, you will see more of Audrey and Bill's journey and meet others who have discovered the gifts and power of having honest end-of-life conversations. As a consultant, speaker, and facilitator, I have conducted over 55 community-based end-of-life planning workshops. I think this film is very important because there's so much taboo. We live in a death-denying culture. We have been conditioned not to talk about death, but in fact, death is a natural thing. It's the one thing that we all share. Dying can be a beautiful process if people have done what I call the real work of dying, wrapping up your life and saying goodbye to it, and doing that in a conscious way.
You will also meet medical professionals who speak candidly about the importance of planning and discussing your plans. The interviews and stories in the film reveal the complexities of end-of-life choices in today's medical environment, while also demonstrating resources and attitudes that can empower us. We have more control over where and how we die than we may think. Good and peaceful endings are possible if we speak openly about dying. I have watched this film, and it is wonderful in doing just that.
Now I've come up with a plan. I've gone through the 5 wishes. I have to do this because not just for myself, but for those who are after me, my children, my grandchildren, my siblings, especially my siblings. I think they need this more than I do.
I'm hoping that by watching this film, you'll be encouraged to talk about your own death experiences to each other and ask other people to tell you their stories. And hopefully, you'll believe that you can do this work also.
I invite you to watch it, and even more, to use it. This resource is now available to you, and additionally, trained facilitators are also available to help you lead this conversation. In this diocese, we are getting several facilitators trained for work within our walls, and so I hope you will seriously look at this resource and do all you can to open up this conversation. You can find out more about the film, its production, and its intent, about Heartwork, who developed and produced it, and other resources by going to www.speakingofdying.com, and more specifically to the use of it in the diocese and about contacting those who can help you facilitate this discussion. I hope you will take the time to watch and use this wonderful resource. There is no reason to be afraid. Blessings to all of you.